down, and you just pull the, just gently pull it.
You've got cold hands. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking Toys with Scott.
And Willie.
And
This is
Willie.
Willie. I'm Scott.
He's Scott. And today, Scott's going to talk about a really cool kit that you can get to build your very own Tom Turbo from
Servo!
Tom Servo. Why did I say Tom Turbo?
Because we needed outtakes.
To build this Tom Servo from eBay.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So, well, this is the kind of thing you can do without an eBay kit, but you wouldn't want to. So if you, I mean, those of, you know, the viewers that know Mystery Science Theater 3000, which I would expect all of the viewers do.
Most probably.
If you don't, it's an amazing series. It was out in the 90s. It had a long history. It was all like a public TV, public access. Then it went to, I ended up on Comedy Central, I think. And it has a long history. Most of us didn't watch all the episodes in their original form because we got them through every other avenue because it was over 10 different mediums it was on. I mean, I'm not a show historian by any means. In fact, I guarantee there's Mystery Science, MST, 3K people out there going, no, that's wrong. They were on Minnesota Public TV. I don't know, man. I just like the show, okay? So, I have a thing for replica props. You know, I really like building, you know, replica props and all that. The Mystery Science Theater 3000 robots were one of the best examples of a low-budget show that made wonderful characters from essentially junk, you know. So they could walk into, you know, a Goodwill store, walk out with 3 boxes of junk for $20 and go build amazing robots that are iconic in entertainment. So the first example of that is Tom Servo here. Every component that makes up Tom Servo is from common off-the-shelf stuff that you can find. It's just how hard you want to look, you know, and how much of your time do you want to spend trolling for parts and money, right? Like, one of the components that we're going to talk about are Tyco turbo trains, right? Now, they just took Tyco turbo trains, spray painted them black, and glued them on, right? So, this is a vacuum-formed copy of a Tyco turbo train. So, and it's already done in black. So, it's like tons of time and money saved. You go on eBay, Tyco turbo trains are somewhat sought after, right?
Oh, yes, they are.
So, you imagine trying to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them. All right. This can be done for a penny a piece versus, you know, what are you going to spend for 6 turbo trains, you know?
Quite a bit.
Yeah. So, the total cost, and some of the stuff like the, we'll go through component by component, but some of the stuff like this here, you're never going to find, pretty much. You could look for years, and if one comes up on eBay, you're in competition with 20 other people, you know. And some guy, I mean, most people would look at the toy that motor came off of and go, why would I even consider eBaying this? It goes in the dumpster. So the odds of somebody actually putting that plastic crappy toy up on eBay and then wondering why it went for $300 would just be, you know, it would be a mystery. So, it is a fantastic found, you know, component piece. So when they were making a show, like I said, they would go into Goodwill or whatever, and they come out with just boxes of junk, and then they build bots, right? So it's real easy to replicate a lot of these pieces, and that's what they've done. Some of them are actually still in production. So I guess we can go from the base to the top. So the base is nothing more than split foam insulation. This is what you buy to go over a pipe. Like if you've got a pipe in your basement that can freeze, you put this foam insulation around it. So that's all that is. Super easy, right? This is a salad bowl. Now, it's a very specific size. So this is done as a resin cast, right? So it's basically a plastic salad bowl copy of a plastic salad bowl. So something like so far though, I mean the skirt and this bowl, you could go in Walmart, Kmart, Target, and you could easily buy a bowl, right? But to make your life easy, they can resin cast one that's the exact replica of the original, and it's the right size, it fits, you know, so again, it's pennies to do, so why not? The Tyco turbo trains, these are vacuum molded copies. So what they do is they take an actual turbo train, put it on a wooden platform with a ton of holes in it, and a vacuum, right? Then you take a sheet of ABS plastic, heat it up in an oven, right? Then you bring it over and lock it, and it sucks all the air out and sucks the hot plastic down over the original article, right? Then you remove it, and it's got this huge apron that you trim away. So there is construction. I mean, you do a lot of the trimming and cutting and sanding and all that. But now you have 6 turbo train shells that just cost nothing but a couple pennies of plastic. And you don't have to hunt them down, right? So, continuing on. So that's the whole skirt assembly. The body assembly here, this is, and you can see, Willie, on the side there, it says Money Lover Barrel.
Money Lover Barrel.
I was just reading it. Somewhere on this barrel, it says Money Lover Barrel, okay? Now, this was a bank, this whole barrel in the center. I'm going to turn around so the folks can see the actual barrel constructions, since we're talking about this. The Money Lover Barrel was late 1960s, I believe, bank. And it was just, banks used to be a big thing for kids, back when change, you know, before the kid had a credit card or tapped to Apple Pay on his phone when he was 11 years old. You actually saved your quarters and stuff and put them in a thing until you had enough to... Remember the joy of having $35 worth of coins to go buy another Atari game?
Oh, yeah.
That was a big deal. So, this Money Lover Barrel, you're not going to find this very easily. They can come up on eBay. You might walk into a store and find one. But the whole point of this kit is you could be looking for months to years trying to piece together the components to make a Tom Servo. Or you can go on eBay and we'll talk about the guy that sells the kits and how reasonable this kit is when we get near the end. But it's tremendous, to find that barrel will be a huge hunt, right? But we don't want to do that. We just want to have the barrel. So what they do is a process called Rotocast, right? So you make a mold that is fairly easy to do. You pretty much take a mold resin and you push the barrel into it, right? Then you make some marks called registration, okay? And that's just so the two halves of the mold meet up and match, right? Then you flip it over, you pour the other half, so you have 2 mold halves, right? So you take your mold halves and made from the original, so you capture every detail. You see the barrel staves, the wood lines. This looks as the original did. So you take a certain amount of resin. So you figure out, okay, what's the surface area of my mold? How thick do I want the walls to be, right? And you pour in that much resin and plug it. And the reason they call it Rotocast is because you spin it. So that circulates the resin around the walls. So let's say it has a 8-minute working life that before it starts to solidify. You just tumble this thing and you can go, you can put it in a hand crank, you can put a little motor on it, or you can just take it in your hands and keep turning it over and over and over. So more or less the resin washes over the surfaces, and as it starts to gel, it pretty evenly distributes. So you end up with like maybe 1/8-inch wall thickness of resin, right? It cures, you split your mold, you take out the Money Lover barrel. So now you have a copy of it, right? So the main technologies used here are resin cast, rotocast, and vacuum forming, right? Pretty darn simple, right? So that gets you the body, right? So now let's talk about Tom Servo's thing here. This is a motor. It's off of a very... Remember the bottom bin, Willie? When you went to the Kmart, Walmart, whatever, back in the 70s, early 80s, there would be that bottom bin of just these super cheap plastic toys like boats and steamrollers and all that. And there was a dragster about that long, right? And that was the motor off of it. It was literally like $1 toy, And this was like the cheap seats, But good luck trying to find one today, So he had an original one, right? So he made a mold of this, and it's a pretty complex mold. He did and the castings in this, some castings, when you get castings from the Far East, they don't care. They just literally, they'll make a casting, and when they do like these recasts of like classic action figures and stuff, it'll be sloppy as crap. They don't care, This guy, really, really cared about his work. So it's a beautiful copy of the original. maybe it almost looks a little better than the original because it's a solid piece and not, you know, a thin piece of plastic. So it's really, it took almost no finishing work beyond painting. It was absolutely beautifully done. So the next piece is his shoulders here. Do you recognize what that is, Willie?
Rayovac lanterns.
Yes. They used to sell these, they would use a 6-volt battery and a bulb, and you would always buy them before a camping trip, you know, and they lasted quite a while. This is the front piece of Rayovac lanterns. Now that would be pretty darn easy to find, right?
Yeah.
But since you're buying a complete kit, they take a Rayovac and they make a mold, and then they, you know, same vacuum form process. Heat a sheet of plastic, right? So he can sit there and just make one after the other for almost no money, and then you don't have, the whole point is so you don't have to go hunt down all the component parts, right? Then here, the doll hands and the shoulders are, these are resin casts of the original. So it's pretty much a one-to-one copy, you know, there's nothing really lost, right? And then the coil spring here is just that. He probably went and bought a 30-inch long garage door spring and just cut it up into chunks, you know. Stupid easy, right? The final component is actually kind of an interesting bit. You do a lot of work to make this what it ends up being, and that is, of course, his head unit. Underneath here is a very small Lazy Susan turntable thing, so you can turn his head, right? Now, this is a fairly modified candy dispenser. This is still in production. You can go and buy this off the shelf, right? So they put one in a box for you, you know, and you need 2 pieces replicated. So to make his head look a little taller, and his head changed throughout the series.
Yes.
It was in many different configurations. And I even made, I was looking for it the other day and I couldn't find it. You can buy these for like literally $11. So remember the episode where Tom Servo gets blown up and he's like blasted, his dome's melted off?
Yes.
So I did, you know, welding and stuff. I just took my oxyacetylene, got a nice neutral flame, and I torched one of these, painted it black. So I've got the Tom Servo burned head I can put on there. And it cost me like $11 and $2 in acetylene, right? And you can do it with a heat gun. You know, you don't need anything fancy, right? So the great thing about these is these are so inexpensive. You could go through and make, if you had a thing for Servo, you could make all the different servos, you know, iterations of Servo.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this is a candy dispenser, right? So you would put like, say, M&Ms in here, right? And there's a little lever that's cut off, and you push down the lever, and a piece of candy comes down. So you can the idea is you put this on your desk, and it's got peanuts or M&Ms or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's still in production. So there's some modifications you do to this to, you know, I will talk about that when we talk about construction of this thing. And this globe normally sits here, but to give them a little more space, they use a copy of the cap, a resin copy of the cap, and glue it down here.
Oh, okay.
So there's 2 caps instead of 1. Not a big deal, right? So that's all the components. Now when you get this thing, and right about now there'll be a graphic that'll show up, and it'll be a clever photograph of all the components laid out, right? It's pretty straightforward. The instructions are okay. It's basically just a couple of pictures that tell you what to do, and it's not that hard. This is a great one to start with if you want to build the MST3K robots, because it's a straightforward process. The paint is not that bad, and the great thing is all these paint colors are known. Everything's known. So you can go on to Bot Builders Forum, you can go on to the RPF, which is a Replica Prop Forum, and you can get literally the paint part numbers for, you know, this stuff. And watch where you source them, because like when I bought the paint for Crow, it's a very rare tester's color that's out of production.
Ooh.
I ended up on Amazon. I got 4 for like $12. People are trying to sell them for $30 a can.
Whoa.
You know, so yeah, some of that stuff is out there. But yeah, so construction is actually not that bad. You start with the base, and you just mark every so many inches, so you equally distribute your turbo trains, right? Then you take your foam, you glue that on. This is already the right color. You don't need to paint it. The money lever barrel, you paint it. And, you know, it's like painting any resin casting. You wash it with some dish detergent to get rid of any mold release, you know, and you know, there's not a lot of prep work to do on most of this. On the Rayovac lanterns, you just take a razor or scissors, cut around the edge, because that's the extra sheet plastic. Then you paint this. You paint the resin, the hands, and the paint on this was very difficult. There's something, some of these resins don't work so well with paint, and you'll literally spray on like a mist coat and all, and it'll start crawling. So you'll get like this mottled look where it'll avoid areas, and so adhesion promoter is your friend. And it's sold in automotive stores. You spray on adhesion promoter, then your paint, and things go a heck of a lot better. You also end up paint peeling, right? And then this will be disassembled into its component parts. So it comes red, but it's not the right maroon, So you paint it, and then you paint the beak and all. And the rest is just, this glues on to here, put a couple screws while the glue dries, and then that's screwed and screwed. So, screw the belt and suspenders approach, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of internal work, like there's a little threaded, when he molds these shoulders here, he puts in a bolt, and then you drill a hole, and the bolt goes through, and, it's all captured, The mechanism for making him talk is kind of interesting. There's a cord that goes down through a piece of PVC, and that's how you end up with the ability to pull it, and I'll demonstrate that here, and have him talk, right? So here I can move his head, right? So it does all the puppeteering that could be done on the show, you can do. So you can turn his head, and then he speaks, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, the speaking mechanism for Tom Servo is pretty straightforward. The one for Crow is a nightmare, and it gave them all sorts of fits on the show from what I read. And I can see, because it gave me all sorts of fits, get it working.
You don't got movie sign till I say you got movie sign, capiche? Yeah. All right, go ahead, you crumb bums. Thank you.
Why, hello, Uncle Atamo.
Get down, Atamo!
Oh, yeah.
You never know.
Well, the simpler beginner kit, Tom Servo, is one that we also did a recording on. This is a much more complex one. It takes a lot more parts, a lot more assembly, and it is fairly delicate. This is the Tom Servo. I've seen people carry these around at expos, Crow, oh boy, it's a nightmare to move anywhere because it's really quite delicate. One person bumps into it and it's, and they found that out on the show because they had to bang out a lot of these because they kept breaking them, So I guess we'll kind of run through, all the parts that make up Crow and the kit that's available on eBay that makes your life so much easier. And for a long time, the fellow that he's the same guy that does the Tom Servo kits. He would list completed Crows, but I don't want a completed one. I want to build it. To me, that is the fun. That's the point, not to have somebody build it for me. I want to do it. So finally, I emailed the guy a couple of times. I said, look, I seriously would like to do one. It's not about the money because he sells them finished for more. And I said, look, I'll buy 2 of the kits from you so you get the same amount of money. I don't care. I just want to build it myself. And he said, well, at some point I may do this or I may do kits, but, So true enough, he got back to me and he said, hey, let's, I'll make a kit. I've got some time now. And a lot of times when people say, well, if I get time, they never do, right? And he did. He got back to me. And so I got the kit. And after that, he kind of semi-consistently lists these on eBay as kits. So, hit him up. Be nice, ask him if he'll sell you a kit. Or if you want a completed one. But again, to me, the fun is in the construction.
Building it.
Yeah. So it's a very complete kit. The only thing it really doesn't come with, other than, paint and finishing supplies, is something to put it on for a base. So I went to Home Depot or Lowe's, and I bought what's called a round. And I don't know what they're used for, but they must sell a lot of them because there's a bunch of them in all different sizes.
Almost.
It looks just like a stool top, right? And it's just a wooden circle. That's all it is. So I have no idea, but they're called rounds and they're easy to get. So I got that, and that's used as the base to support him on, because he's kind of, otherwise you couldn't display him. So, kind of working, I guess we'll do from the bottom up again. The way the crow is put together, you first have, interlocking PVC pipes. And there's like 4 or 5 different lengths of these in different sizes that make together sort of the mast, right? And there's a little window here. And puppeteering this thing must have been really tough. Because there's a little window where you can reach through and you can make them look left and right, okay? Then you've got, other than left and right, the ability to make his eyes go up and down, right? So you actually have to sort of balance the eyes. So you can look, Willie. So that's how, the eyes are everything for Crow. That's it, right? And then, of course, you have the ability, to puppeteer, the mouth, So, you have the mast piece, and this is, he gives great direction, so you can figure this out real easy. And this body here, so you've got this lower piece, and these pieces, are from a Tupperware set that, if not in production, is certainly common. And it was a floral display. So the whole thing is turned upside down. So you would have one of these with this and then flowers would go in it.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was a floral display. So literally, this, if you flip this piece around so it was backwards, and then turn the whole thing upside down, this would be the floral vase, right? So Tupperware, they got in all kinds of stuff beyond just food containers. They got into, floral displays. So these two glue together fairly simply. There is a plastic lid, if you will, that you just cut away everything but the rim. That gives the black trim there. And then there is a piece of gutter drain section, like, that black corrugated pipe that for drainage. There's about a 3-inch section of that, and that thickens up the body there. And the arms, and this is all just found stuff. Much like Tom Servo, they went in a thrift shop and they just bought tons of stuff and then went back and glue this. Hey, look, we made a robot, So some of it's very easy to get. Like this body, super easy to get. You can go on eBay and get those for $1 a piece, whatever. The other parts of it are very, very difficult to find. So, again, the beauty of the kit here is these parts are either originals or replicas. These are actually originals, and they're super simple. The only problem with these, although they're originals, they're made of a very slick plastic, right? And this plastic does not want to accept paint. You can literally clean it, prep it, lightly, like scuff sand it, spray the paint on it, and peel it off in one sheet. It's the most plastic-proof paint in the world, right? So what you want to do is do all your normal prep steps and slather this thing in an adhesion promoter. Adhesion promoter is a very special paint. You can get it in the automotive section. It's designed to help paint stick to plastic slick surfaces like bumpers all, right? So I probably put more layers of adhesion promoter on this than ever, right? Then what I did is I stood back and I did a mist coat, right? So it was still tacky, and then I sprayed the first layer of the green into that. Now I'll talk about the paint finish on this thing. It was not easy. This is something that's going to give you fits, The arms for Crow are lamps. So up here is, the switch base unit, and the whole thing is it's a lamp put back together in a way it wasn't originally put. The lamp base here with the switch is up here. There is the joint here, this little rubber ring. Then you've got the actual, if you can picture this, it's a desk lamp, right? So here, instead of a hand, would be
a light.
A little light, yeah. So this is a replica of the original lamp. There are these plastic pieces that are cut out, like the metal pieces, and these are actually wood. But these would have been, hollow aluminum box tube. And these are made out of wood. And they're all painted in that same lime green. I'll get to that. It's a paint finish. This is some more of that split tubing insulation for pipes. So there's 2 of these that sort of bulk up the arms and give it that shape. And then this is from I think it was a Halloween toy called the Candy Taker. And it had a little grip.
Yes,
yeah.
I remember
and
that.
you could reach out and grab something with it, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason you need to do that. So these are resin copies of the original. So you can have him pose it kind of any way you want. And so that's each arm, right? These lamps. I mean, imagine trying to find a specific desk lamp from like 82.
Oof.
Good luck, right?
Good luck.
And I'm sure they're out there that survived, but good luck running one down. So the beauty of the kit is you get all those parts, right? That's the thing. You're getting parts that you would otherwise be chasing forever, and they're easy to obtain. Other parts are very, very much still in production. So, you know, if you go to Home Depot, you can buy that. So within a couple days, you could get, you know, the flower assembly. You could get the corrugated tubing here. There's a lot of stuff you could get. Other parts, though, you will be looking for years, potentially, easily years, to complete your bot. And then when the item does come up, you're in competition with every other guy out there who's trying to complete his bot. So there really is no merit in not using cast parts, you know. So we've covered sort of the body here. The neck, again, this is just PVC. A little more of this rubber stuff here with a little zip tie collar to keep it in place. Now, the head assembly, this is where Crow gets really complex. This is a bowling pin. And remember those cheap lawn sets where you had like a black bowling ball and then a set of those pins, right?
Yep.
Again, not expensive originally, not... They sold them by what? Just every summer there was an aisle full of those things?
Oh, yeah.
And they sold them, right? So they were definitely available. Try finding one now, you know. So the same story. So this is also a Rotocast. So with Tom Servo, we talked a little bit about Rotocast. I'll just sort of recap that. They make a mold of the bowling pin, right? So you take the bowling pin, you put it in the bed, you pour resin around it, then you make some marks for registration so that the molds line up. You make the other half of the mold, so now you have a bowling pin mold, right? But you need it hollow. So the way that you make a hollow component is you measure up the surface area of the mold and the wall thickness you want. So let's say the wall thickness is 1/4 inch, right? 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. And you pour in that much resin, plug the hole, and then you tumble it. You can either put it in a spinner or like you have a little handle, which is why they call it Rotocast. You can just turn it over in your hand, right? And the resin just washes over the inside of the mold. And as it cures, it becomes a hollow piece, right? So now when you get it, you've got this black resin bowling pin, right? And you cut into it along the line, you make a line, cut into it, and then you've got, you know, of course, the hinge, which is pop riveted, and you drill a hole through it, and that's where the neck passes. And then back here is hollow, because you're going to need access to these bolts. So that's his beak and everything is the bowling pin. This is actually a soap dish from the 60s. So if you can imagine this laying with this part facing vertical, right? You put your bar of soap in there, right? So again, they probably from 1965 to 1975 probably sold tens of thousands of those in Kmart and Walmart. Good luck finding one now.
Yeah.
So what this guy does is he takes an original soap dish, you know, puts on a vacuum mold, heats up your sheet of plastic, lays it over, gets sucked down, and now you have a vacuum mold of the original. So now you have that part that would otherwise be very, very difficult to obtain. And, you know, once it's trimmed and painted, it's indistinguishable from the original plastic piece because it's pretty much an exact copy of the original, right? The eyes are the real touchy part for Crow. They are ping pong balls painted yellow with a square of duct tape. Have you ever tried to cut a perfectly square piece of duct tape?
No.
Electrical tape, I'm sorry. Then, have you ever tried to apply that perfectly centered on eyes twice without it distorting? That was about 20, 30, 50, 100, I don't know, 10 years worth of retries until I was happy with the result. That was the hardest part, I think, of this bot, was getting those eyes straight. So, the whole mechanism that they pivot on and turn around, it's complex, it's delicate. It'll take you a while to figure out and get it just right. But once you do, it's totally rewarding, you know. Not having the eyes scraping around or jamming, just where they work, you know, it's a real rewarding end result. Then that glues onto the PVC above the beak, and I don't know if you can see that, there's actually quite a bit of clearance.
Oh yeah.
In between all of them, you know. Then the last piece is crow's crowness, you know. So it is the net, right? This is from a hockey mask. Now, apparently they sold a whole lot of these, but there was a safety recall because I guess somebody got their face smashed in hockey. So there weren't a lot of these out there in the wild. This is probably a part that takes forever to become available on eBay. So this, having a resin copy of it, is huge. And I mean, you look at that, you see the tabs, you can imagine, you know, how that would snap into place. You know, with the screws and the fittings and all, it is a perfect replica of the original item, you know. That is actually one of the easier parts. You just do some sanding, some adhesion promoter, and the painting. Now, I want to talk about the painting on this.
Oh boy.
Many of the things, you all have all sorts of different surfaces, right? Like you have the wood here for the struts. You have resin for this. You have resin for these, and this are the same resin. This is a different resin. This is a super slick, paint-resistant, you know, surface. So you've got all these different materials, but you want a consistent finish, right? So a lot of it was just doing a tremendous amount of sanding and primering on the wood until it looked like aluminum, you know. And then all these parts here was just tons and tons and tons of adhesion promoter. And once you get it all painted, it is really easy to scratch, chip, or ruin the paint. So assembly after painting, you assemble everything you possibly can before you do the painting, and even then it's, you know, screwing these pieces in and getting everything set. This is a great display robot. It's not a great traveling robot. I wouldn't want to haul this around to any place, you know, without a good bit of disassembly. And the paint, the line testers that goes over it is fairly expensive, fairly hard to do, right? So what we did is you spray it with a tester's bronze, a basic, you know, inexpensive, off-the-shelf kind of paint that goes underneath it. Then you spray this lime green designed for a muscle car, which is actually translucent. It's a translucent green. So what you're seeing underneath that is kind of the base coat with this translucent green over it. So to get crow's colors, I mean, you could cheat, you could shortcut all this and just use a, you know, kind of a similar line paint, but it's instantly going to stand out as not being chrome. And fortunately, the part numbers of all the paint that they use, it's out there on the bot form or RPF. Not hard. I think it's even in the instructions he gives you. It's in there, and you get all the parts. You go through and do all the construction, get all the paint, get it together, and you've got a really beautiful companion piece for the Tom Servo. So there's a lot more parts to it. It's a little more expensive. I want to say maybe it was $275 or so for all the parts, which, you know, one of these parts alone could sell for more than that on eBay if you found an original. And they really are beautiful copies. It's an exact, pretty much copy of the original pieces, or original pieces in the case of the Tupperware. So it gets you a crow.
Awesome.
Oh boy! Yeah!
Hey, there's Hasbro! Hasbro makes toys! What's new, Hasbro?
Pretty sneaky, sis.
Remember, you can tell it's Mattel. It's
Okay, let them go. Some of the great SSP racers for 72.
M-A-R-X spells Mark, world's largest toy maker.
Remember, every boy wants a Remco toy, and so do girls. And remember, if it isn't Duncan, it isn't Yo-Yo.